Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and many of you have been asking me to do a What's on my iPhone video. Typically I'll do about 3 of these a year, and this year I skipped at least one of them. Usually I do a beginning of the year, middle of the year, and then end of the year. So it's been a while since we talked about what's on my iPhone, but many of you have been asking me for it. We'll also take a look back on iOS 9 to see how I had this set up a little bit later. So this still has iOS 9 on it, so we'll look at that in a little bit. Now, many of you, of course, are familiar with my home screen watching my videos, and you'll see everything's kind of laid out like it's been for the past couple of months since iOS 18 gave us the ability to rearrange icons. So I got rid of whatever was in the middle so you can better see the wallpaper, and then at the top I have this app called Mercury Weather. If you press and hold, you can edit the widget and actually change the overall background style, the icon style, as well as the location, of course, but you can change this maybe to night purple, and then it will change. Many people ask me what this app is. Unfortunately, this app is a paid app that I pay for, but you do have some free options as well. So you can switch between different colors and more. And if you go into it, it's a pretty good weather app. I actually like some of the layout of the original weather app on the iPhone a little bit better, but this is really nice overall. And I really like the widget that it comes with. Of course, you can see my basic icon layout where we have the camera, settings, then my YouTube things such as YouTube Studio, YouTube, and YouTube Music on page 1, podcasts, then Gmail, then X, then Instagram, then church with the Bible and Elevation Church. That's a local church to here. They also have some online stuff as well, photos, and phone. So this is what I use the most, and of course in my dock, this hasn't changed for years, and I'll show you that on iOS 9, but basically messages, Safari, mail, and music. If we go into podcasts, many people ask what I actually listen to, and it goes back and forth. Things like Genius Bar, Waveform sometimes, Decoder I really like because it's with different CEOs and things, a good interview with them, the Vergecast sometimes. I actually listen to Criminal quite a bit, sometimes MacBreak Weekly. That was something I listened to in the past, but if we find this here, if we go to my library, Criminal is something I've listened to for years that gives history basically about different things in the United States, sometimes around the world as well. So it's one of my favorite podcasts. My wife listens to it as well, and Decoder is probably something I listen to the most right now. The others sometimes I'll listen to. There's my one podcast that I had with Steve Mosher, and so far I haven't recorded another, but that's what I'm listening to. And when it comes to music, if we go into this, you'll see there's my replay 2024. Now, one thing I really don't appreciate about this is it combines everything my family listens to. So I may have been listening to NF, but then my family may have been listening to someone else, and it combines them all. So it's something that I find to be fairly frustrating, just like these are recently played for Christmas, of course, and different things. I didn't listen to a lot of these. This was my family account listening to these. So some of them I did, some of them I didn't, but I wish it would show me just my individual things for my phone. But that's what I've been listening to. I'll probably find out something new very soon as far as music, as I listen to new music every Friday to see what's out there. Now, before we take a look at the next page, let's take a look at photos. Many people really dislike iOS 18's photo change, and they even changed it in the beta. We had a little scroll at the top where we could go side to side. They got rid of that, and I have it customized to where I actually like the way it works, but I think there were some better things about iOS 17 as well, with the Photos app anyway. So I just have basically my photos, pinned collections, and then utilities where we can go through those. If we go to customize and reorder, you'll see I only have pinned collections enabled and utilities, and within pinned collections, you can actually customize those. So the pinned collections themselves, I have customized with albums, favorites, recently saved, map, videos, and screenshot. In fact, I don't really need maps, so I'll get rid of that, but you can add whatever you'd like, and this seems to work best for me for finding what I want recently, such as recently saved and more. So I think it's much better than it was before when they just gave you everything, but it definitely could use some updates as far as additional options, or maybe just an option to switch it back to a classic mode. I don't think Apple will do that, but hopefully we see that. As far as page 2, well, page 2 has craft. This is things I've been working on as far as different updates with my notes. So you'll see here, iPad Pro M4 was one I was looking at, an OWC Thunderbolt dock that I still have a video to do on, and this lets me see the recent notes that I've gone into. It opens up the Craft app, and then I can see my notes. I have a lot of notes coming up for different videos, so I won't go into that directly, but you get the idea there. So in this particular page, I have things listed that I don't go into every single second of the day, but sometimes I'll go into. So we have calendar, which I know many people are surprised, but I rarely use a calendar. I typically use reminders instead. I have Geekbench 6 I typically use for videos, the Watch app, and the Journal app. I started to use the journaling app more often now and add journal entries. However, I'm not using it as much as I'd like. Of course, I have Notes, Find My, News, and then Cars. Under Cars, I have a BMW app, a Porsche app, and Tesla for different cars we own. And also under Social Networking, these are different things I go into quite often, but not all the time. So for example, Blue Sky and Ivory, Hive, Telegram, Signal, Threads, Discord, and WhatsApp. I probably use Telegram the most in here as I have a Telegram channel and a Discord channel, so I'll link both of those in the description, and you can check those out. We typically talk about different things, lots of good information about updates and more, and sometimes just fun discussion. Also Calculator, Google, Home, Playground, a new app that's coming out soon, or it could be out now, called Radiance that helps you create different wallpaper, Passwords, and Developer. So lots of really nice things here, and I don't really use the Playground app at all. I use Passwords a lot, but Playground I haven't used since the last video. It's something that I think is okay to play around with for a few times, but it's not really anything I would use regularly. I typically find that the Google version or Grok or any of the others seem to do a better job if you want realism. On page 3, these are just plain Apple apps, and this is typically if I need to show something in a video and I just want it on a home screen. So for example, the Apple Store, App Store, I have 2 Apple stores for some reason. Let's get rid of that. We'll remove it from the home screen. There we go. I have books, shortcuts, classical music, voice memos, stocks, and fitness. So these are things that I might reference from time to time in a video, or of course need to go into the App Store, but they're just on the 3rd page. If we go here and then maybe we go to our different pages, you'll see that's all I have. I like to keep it as super clean as far as the main pages. However, I do have more apps installed. I have quite a few more apps installed, so I'll use them as needed. For example, Assassin's Creed Mirage, haven't really tried it. The Alt Store is here, trying to install third-party apps or third-party out of the App Store Alt stores, and it doesn't really work yet in the United States. American Airlines, different authenticators. You'll see some different things. Let me find something that you may be interested in. We have Claude, that's another AI app. Also things such as Copilot, which is really great for managing finances or seeing everything at once. It's very similar to what we had with Mint years ago. Craft, again, I use for notes. Delta, which is for emulation. I don't really use it. Eufy Clean for a RoboVac I have, and a RoboMop. Really nice to use. And then also different things for travel, different things for expenses with Expensify, as well as things such as Final Cut Camera, which is a great app, something that I don't use enough probably and should, along with the iPad with Final Cut Camera or Final Cut Pro for iPad. We also have Fuji X Weekly, and this is a great app if you want to see recipes to sort of get different looks out of this camera, the Fujifilm X100 VI. So it's something that I probably should use a little bit more to get some different looks out of, but I typically like a couple different profiles that we have in here. And also, if we go back here, I do have quite a few apps, but a lot of them are just standard apps, but I also have a lot of Google apps. You can see here with Google Photos, Google Home, and then Govee. Govee is something I've been using recently to control the lights. Sometimes you'll see them in thumbnails in the background, just colorful lights, a light strip that you can control. Halide if I want to really get into using the camera, then Hilton for hotels. And if we scroll down here, LifeX, another one that I use sometimes in backgrounds for lights. LumaFusion, that's been around. Lumi, that won App of the Year finally for the watch, that I have it in the center as the complication, so something that I definitely recommend checking out. And then also if we continue down, you'll see a few different things, and one of my favorites recently is Monument 3, Monument Valley 3. Now, I played through the first and second version of it, and I thought it was a great game. Monument Valley 3 requires that you use Netflix. I'm not sure why they made this deal. I'm not sure all the details behind it, but Monument Valley 3 is pretty great. But if you want to play it, you have to sign into Netflix the first time you open it. So I would recommend trying at least the first 2 and see if you like them. We'll continue down. MyQ, that's for garage door openers, for example. Overcast for podcasts. However, I've been using the Apple Podcasts app more. And then just typical things you can see here, everything from banking information, insurance, and more. Of course, I have red control for a red camera that I do use from time to time, and I am really into cameras. I just don't show them a lot, but this is my red Komodo X. You'll see with a Canon 15-35 on it, and you can remotely control it. I do have an XLR input in there, and it allows you to control it, hit record, and things like that. So this is a really nice camera. However, the autofocus isn't that great. In fact, I'm using a Panasonic GH7 right above. So let me flip the camera around here and show you a little bit behind the scenes. So if I flip this around, you'll see it's overhead with an XLR adapter with the 10-25 lens on it. It's a great camera and definitely something that, even though it's not full frame, I absolutely love that camera. Then, of course, things such as Ring. I have different Ring cameras and an alarm system, as well as investing apps. Rove Motion, this is for a slider that I have. I've shown that before. I don't really use shortcuts. People ask me, what shortcuts do you use? Honestly, I never use any of them. But if there's some you would suggest, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Other things such as a sleep number bed, Sonos for a sound system that I use for my home, and Starlink for internet. I did have a hurricane that came through this past summer. It took out our power and our internet, and so I used Starlink to connect, and I had a power wall to actually back up the power, and I was able to get online and continue to upload videos and record videos and more. So Starlink definitely works really well. It's not as fast as using maybe cable or fiber, but it's definitely worth using, especially if you have no other option. If we continue down, you'll see some health things, as well as TikTok, which could be gone by the time you're watching this. By January 19th, it's apparently banned in the United States, so we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. And then as we continue down, just typical things for utilities. I have a lot of utility apps with UPS and Venmo. And of course, we have Wallpaper Z from my friend Daniel at Zone of Tech. He made this app to see different wallpaper, lots of great things in here, a lot of free ones as well. So definitely worth checking out if you haven't already. And we're almost done through all the apps, but you'll see some different investment apps, WhatsApp, of course, and then again, more utilities, 1Password. I use that all the time as well. But as far as iOS 9, since I mentioned that at the beginning of the video, well, this is the original layout I had back then. You'll even see apps that aren't really around anymore. So you'll see this is the home screen. If we go into settings, we'll go to General, then About. You'll see at the bottom here, we have iOS 9.3.2 with a build number of 13F69. If we go back home, back on the home screen, you'll see everything looks like it did back then. The control center, if we swipe up from the bottom, I really miss this control center. I like how minimal it is, but across the overall OS, you'll see it's different. We have a different app store. We have a different videos icon, and then some things that don't exist anymore. Hangouts, for example, Groove, Google+, Casts. Some of these exist, of course, but different icons, the original Twitter icon. And if we go to the next page, you'll see a bunch of other things. Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, Procreate back in the day, and my favorite email app of all time, Inbox. Unfortunately, it doesn't work at all. So if we go into it, you'll see it brings me to the main screen, and this was my favorite email app. I wish they'd bring it back and make Gmail into that. But you'll see for photography, this is what we had back then. I'll go through these very quickly. The Apple apps, what they originally used to look like, Game Center, FaceTime, things like the iTunes Store and News. You have things such as iCloud Drive and Trailers and Activity. If we go into utilities, Speed Test is still around. Google Authenticator is still around with a different icon. Lots of things we've seen. Geekbench 3. You'll see Amazon looked a little bit different. 1Password was different. Lots of changes since then. So this just kind of is something I keep around to see what it looks like over time. So you'll see what it looks like with Flipboard, things I was using back then. If we go into music, we're not online, but we're offline. If we go to My Music here, you'll see what it looks like. So not 120 hertz smooth, but very usable and definitely something I miss. I really like the older design where everything was just super smooth. So overall, this is what it looked like back then. I haven't changed the apps I use too much, but the look a lot different. Things definitely seem a little smoother, but sometimes I miss what these looked like as well. So that's everything on my iPhone. I thought I'd just share everything in detail, as many of you have been asking, and let me know if there's any apps you think I should be using, whether it's games I should play on the iPad or different apps that you think are better than the ones I'm using I showed you today. If you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, I'll link it in the description like I normally do, and if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.